Hello and welcome to Clutch Kick Radio. That was Ryan that you just heard a moment ago talking about our special guest of the day.
Apparently the mics weren't muted.
No.
Usually they are right there for the first few seconds, but not this time.
I like to shake it up, man. I like to switch things up.
It's all good.
Great shirt, by the way.
Yeah, you like that?
Heck yeah. PARC Fest, is that 2014?
Yes, it is.
Damn.
I don't know. I've got quite a few of these. I try to hit all the PARC Fest because I like to get the T-shirts. It's pretty awesome.
I should have gotten a T-shirt when we were there for this year, but I didn't.
Yeah. This one's pretty old. I've been using it for obviously welding, but I try not to get this one too beat up. Usually if it's a real dirty day or like a lot of cutting, I'll wear something else. But
why do we do that to our shirts, you know?
I don't know.
You know, Performance Warehouse is gone now. They were bought out. So Performance Warehouse in Portland is no more. My jobber T-shirts that I had, because I went to their jobber fairs for years, all tore up, all covered in holes, all covered in stains. Like, why do I do that to my stuff, you know?
You know, it's bad for me. It's kind of funny, and it literally just came up the other day. I was wearing a T-shirt that because Caitlin's pretty on me about not ruining all our nice T-shirts, because we actually got some pretty sweet. I'd say we collected about 10 kart T-shirts in the last 6 months or so that are really sweet T-shirts, and so she's been really on me about not wearing them in the shop, and I've been trying not to as well because I like them. And then like just the other day, she's like, "Oh, hey," it was like kind of a day we weren't doing anything. She's like, "Hey, can we do something?" I don't even remember what it was. And I was like, "Oh yeah, no problem." And so I walked out into the shop like in my sweatpants, that shirt, and like flip flops, and like did something on the grind or whatever. And then we went back inside, and I was like, "See, this is why I ruin all my stuff." Like I don't wear nice things because every time I do, someone's like, "Hey, you want to work on my car that's full of grease?" Or, "Hey, you want to lay in this mud?" And I'm like, "No, but I'll do it."
Yeah.
And then it's just ruined.
Well, like this shirt, for example, I'm a little bit shocked that this thing is still in the condition it's in, which is not great, but it's not terrible.
Yeah, mine would look 10 times worse than that, I guarantee it.
I had the strangest thing happen today. I was in the liquor store, and there was this woman that came walking in, and she had a Boosted T-shirt on. And so it was literally the turbo, and it said Boostin', like Boostin' magazine, you know? And I stopped, and I looked at her, and I said, "That's the craziest thing." And I unzipped my jacket and I showed her my shirt, and she was like, "That is hilarious."
That's awesome.
And then I said, "Are you into cars?" And she said, "No." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Not that I need any more car friends. That's not what I mean. I'm just saying, you know.
Yeah. I actually have one that's like that. It has turbo, and it says air goes in, happiness comes out. That's another good turbo one.
I want to get a rotary one that says boost goes in, apex seals come out.
That's good. There you go.
Yeah.
You should just start making those. I'm sure people will buy them.
Well, and you know what? We need to make some Clutch Kick Radio shirts here pretty soon.
That is true. We do.
Yeah. We need some merch. We need some shirts. We need some stickers. As a matter of fact, if you guys have any thoughts on, you know, shirts, stickers, anything else that you might want to see from us, you just let us know, and we will try to make that happen. You know, with this whole COVID thing, neither of us have really been in a position where we can do, I don't know, events and stuff, you know. I don't know if I told you this or not, but I actually had financial backing for a car show, like right before COVID happened, and it screwed everything up.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I have 3 celebrity interviews that I've frankly just been sitting on because I'm like, well, how long can this possibly last? It has lasted a lot longer than I thought it would.
Like, I was hoping not this long, but...
Right, exactly. Right. So now I have no idea what to do with them. But hey, at least we get to talk to a few drift celebrities, right?
I know, right? And that's been like the best part about all this is like drifting never stops.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't, because... Like, at the end of the day, like, I mean, look, PARC was one of the first people that I know of to hold an event, because they were like, look, we got this many acres. If it's only your driver and your close family, you're all in cars anyways, so why not? And as far as I know, it went good. I mean, we can talk to Dalton and see what he has to say about it. Hey, Nick, do you want to try calling him? There you go.
Do you recall someone that had access to, it was almost like a logging road, and it was chip seal. I'm trying to remember who it was. I know this sounds nuts, but it was like, it was before Pat's Acres, it was before anything else, and there were these guys that were saying we have a real possibility of having like a private toge road, right? Is any of this ringing a bell?
I feel like it is, but was that? Do you remember what area that was? Was that in Bend? Because I vaguely remember something about Bend, but I'm not sure. I think it was the Bend guys.
I don't know if it was in Bend, honestly, but I just know that the road was chip seal, and so dudes showed up with like 2 sets of tires, and it just didn't go well. I mean, they just chewed through tires. It wasn't an easy surface to slide anyways. Like, it was just, and I think it pulled up the chip seal, and the person's family whose property it was on just said no. So it was sort of a one-day thing. But it was that weird intermediate area where we didn't have access to like Pat's Acres, for example, at the time.
I don't know. I don't think that I was a part of that. That might have been Derek and Ryan Pillsbury and all those guys. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Hey, Nick, you want to try calling this phone number on there?
Oh, have a little issue with the guest?
Yeah, Dalton couldn't get us called, so we're going to try calling him here.
Oh, you gotta love technology, man.
I know, right? Every time.
Every single time. And anybody that is watching right now, please feel free to loudly make fun of us or
ask our sweet Skype skills.
Ask any questions you might have. We're more than happy to answer them. Ryan, that reminds me, what have you been working on, buddy?
We have been working on a 1969 Mercedes 280 SL.
Frankly, what
SE?
That is crazy. I mean, I want to see this thing done so bad.
I do too, and it's funny because, man, I'm not sure how much is going to be posted and how much isn't, but I'm going to be talking to Jared. I know that we're getting some pictures of my S14 and some of the stuff I built. We've got all the stuff on the Mercedes that we're building, and I know even right now he's got like 65 pictures, I think, of this whole process. So I'm thinking that if he's not going to,
producer Nick,
I'm gonna just hook.
You're gonna hook what?
I don't know. I forgot. Lost where I was going with that.
Well, that's a perfect segue into our guest that we're having on, by the way. So it's Dalton Egger. It is the son of Chris at Pat's Acres, a quite accomplished kart racer, by the way.
Yeah.
And a bit of a motorsports photographer.
That's what I've been seeing. I'm not sure if he does video or not. I was telling you that the other day, but I know that he takes some amazing pictures.
I can already see him responding to us, so we better cue him in. Dalton, you there?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Doing fantastic. Hey, and you're wearing car stuff. We're all wearing car stuff today.
Yeah, I guess it does. Does say Honda on my shirt.
I guess that could be cars, motorcycles, ATVs. Honda doesn't make any UTVs yet, do they?
I was gonna say, I think they do.
Do they?
Yeah, I don't know what they are, but I'm pretty sure they do.
I don't know. All I ever hear about these days is like the Polaris stuff and the Razors and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Are we ever going to see any of those drift? What do you think, boys?
I mean, that'd be awesome. If someone builds one, they can bring it out.
I know, right? I think that's one of my favorite things about PARC is for the most part, as long as it's like reasonably safe, like go have fun, go tear it up, don't go off track, follow the rules. It's good to go.
We love seeing all the really cool builds, like the interesting ones. I've always loved that Samurai that I think has like a 2JZ in it, or is it
I think it was a rotary, wasn't it?
It was a rotary. Sorry, I'm mixing that up. But yeah, just a Samurai with a rotary engine.
Holy smokes! What about that? What about really that giant truck you guys had at PARC Fest this couple weekends ago?
Dude, we had 2 trucks that actually drifted really well. There was one that was big. I think it was like a Chevy or a GM. It was a little newer, but it was a big truck that was actually not just doing burnouts out of the corners. He was actually coming into the corners with it sideways. And then there was another smaller Silverado on day 2, I think, that was, he was spinning tires. He was connecting the entire track. you know, a lot of guys have attempted to drift trucks, but I have rarely seen them be able to connect the entire track. You know, it's probably not balanced very well.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not. Those are always the ones that interest me. I know it's a little biased because for some reason, I think drift trucks are cool, and I've been waiting for like someone to come out with some nice ones. Like I just have all my other projects. I mean, one day I'm sure I'm going to build one, but I love the drift trucks. I don't know why, but especially that big truck that you were just saying. I actually just added that guy on Facebook because I'm curious to see what it's done to it and all that, because yeah, he was throwing down in that thing.
I don't know if it's got anything done to it, honestly, because I watched him go around. It had body lean, it had stock wheels on it. Like, I think he was just out there knowing what he's doing.
Could have just been an incredibly good driver.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, producer Nick, Dalton's a little bit quiet on his end. Is there anything we can do there? No, he's saying no. So
That's all right.
it is what it is. So Dalton, how long have you been, you basically have been racing karts around Pat's Acres for,
Probably as soon as you could walk, right?
well, yeah. How long has Chris owned it? I forget now.
So my dad bought it in '98. I was born in '97, so I mean, I was not even a year old when he got the track, and I mean, yeah, until I can remember, I grew up at Pat's Acres. So he had me in a go-kart when I was 3. Same thing with all my other siblings. You know, I think he had to be 4 at the time, but he gave us like a year of extra practice so that we'd be prepared. But yeah, I've just been racing ever since.
Have you ever had any aspirations beyond kart? I know a lot of the pro drivers start with go-karts, but not everybody wants to go anywhere else.
Growing up, I always wanted to be an F1 driver. You know, I did, but so you once I was kind of exposed to the realities of how to get there. You know, if you're not rich or if you don't have millions of dollars backing you, you kind of don't really have hope. And I don't know, I just kind of like the drift also exploded when I was really young, and so that kind of caught my interest too. And yeah, about the time where you decide, are you going to give up on racing, go to college, or try to make it as a racer? And it was like, let's go to school. But
yeah.
No, I love it. I still work with a lot of motorsports organizations. I worked the Indy 500 last year. I work for SCCA. I do a lot of race control with cameras and everything. You know, I've gone a couple IMSA races last year, but I mainly work a lot of go-kart races around the country. So.
That's fascinating. I gotta be honest, a part of me really wants to see you in like a Miata doing some autocross or pro solo, because the ability, the experience kind of transfers over. That's what I hear a lot anyways. So over on our other show, Boost, Booze, and Barbecue, we had Tom O'Gorman, who's a factory driver for Honda, and he started in some go-karts. And then he moved on to autocross, and he won a national title in autocross. And then that kind of won him a seat in a race car. And so I always wonder, you know, someone like yourself who's been racing go-karts for years and years, once you get into a smaller, peppy rear-wheel drive car that really wants to have someone keep the momentum up in it, you know what I mean? I'd love to see how you could do in something like that.
I mean, yeah, I would love to hop in a car. You know, if someone's got. I mean, I've done it a few times. I mean, I've just driven some nicer cars around our track. You know, guys have pulled in with the Ferrari or McLaren and been like, "Here, you know, go do a lap around it real quick." And I mean, awesome. Yeah, it's go-karts handle extremely well. They are so darty. You know, you barely put any input in the wheel, and it'll just turn. You can brake faster in a go-kart than you can any other type of vehicle because they don't weigh anything. I mean, we actually, in karting, after each official session, you have to weigh yourself in the cart, and there's a minimum weight. If you're, you know, an ounce or, you know, even a pound or anything below weight, you're DQ'd, you know? So
wow.
The pro shifter classes, I think we come in at like 395 with us and the cart is about what we're weighing.
So basically you're not wiping any sweat off of your eyebrows, and if you do, you wipe it back on your race suit.
I mean, like, I personally have never really had any issues with being below weight. I've been overweight. You know, I've a little thicker.
You're preaching to the choir, buddy.
Yeah. No, I don't think I've had to put lead on my kart in probably 6 or 7 years. Most kids that are really small, they'll have 30 or 40 pounds of lead bolted to their seat, just so they can make weight. So I've never personally had issues with like being light, but there are guys get DQ'd or penalized all the time at national level because they try and make it so close. And even if tanks are, 1.5 gallons, maybe 2 gallons. And some of these engines will take 1.5 gallons during a 20-lap race. And if you don't calculate it right, you could be 3 or 4 pounds overweight with a full tank and be half a pound light when it's empty.
Yeah.
You calculate it that way. I never had that issue. I can run that tank empty and I'd still be fine.
Well, so can I ask, do you guys still have your rental karts there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, so what do you think the translation is, honestly, truly? Like, could a person spend some time in your rental karts and pick up a few things like, trail braking, left foot braking, late apexing even? I know drifters don't really use late apexing, but do you feel like those things would translate over well for a lot of the people who want to come and drift on the track?
I mean, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. You can't, like, in a kart, you can't, like, move your feet across or anything like that. And you're not really, because they have clutches and you can burn them up so quickly, you don't want to trail brake. But, I mean, it's driving in general helps. If I feel like it's more on the opposite. If you are a drifter, I think you will have a little bit of an advantage if you then hop in a go-kart right away and then try and drive. Whereas if a guy that has just driven rental karts hops in a drift car, I think it'd take him a lot longer to figure it out.
Interesting. Yeah,
I agree.
Okay.
I think the one advantage it would have would be just learning the track layout itself.
Sure.
And like your distances, because I think we've talked about it every time we talk about the track, but it's like it's so deceiving when you're just standing on one end, like how banked some of the corners are and how much elevation change the track actually has in it. It's pretty deceiving when you're just standing there looking at it.
So in Assetto Corsa, I'm not sure I've entered the first corner without going into the grass a single time yet.
Yeah, it's also, I'll say it was always one of those things where like I got lucky because I've drifted there for so long, but like that first corner, especially before you guys widened it, it was a rough corner for a lot of people. And how many people lost wheels to that corner? Because it's narrow, and then you get it, if you don't get it right, it starts pushing you down because it's so banked, and there you go. There goes your front wheel. You dip a wheel and gone. Inside of your rim, it'll rip it right out.
Yep.
Every time.
The elevation changes, I think you can feel them a lot more in a kart. Just because there's no suspension. There's nothing that is kind of helping ease that elevation change. You're feeling it in the chassis. And so most kart tracks aren't like that. The other kart track that I know was really well known for its elevation changes was Shawano, whereas, they have a huge drift presence at that track now. I don't think they've done any kart races there recently, but that used to be in the early 2000s. That used to be, they used to host the Grand Nationals, national level events all the time there. Yeah, I feel like it's really hard to kind of say that there's a comparison between go-karting and drifting. If you're into drifting, I feel like you'd be really good with your kart control. The whole point of karting is to stay in grip, but be on that level of losing grip, like pushing that line. Mm-hmm. And so, kids that push it too far, when they lose that grip, they just spin and go off the track. Well, I got to imagine if you're a drifter, you kind of understand how to catch yourself.
Right.
I haven't really seen, I know a lot of go-karters who have turned into drifters. I don't think I really know any drifters who are now full-time go-karters.
Yeah, true.
It would be really interesting to see.
Right.
Ooh, we need to do a case study.
Well,
Ryan.
I know that was kind of me. Like, so back in the day when I used to come autocross with you and Coy, that was like the funnest part for me, was like trying to not make my drift car, spin tires the whole time. It was like I was spinning tires almost the whole time, but it was like half tracking. It was right. Like it was fun for me. I actually liked it. It was, autocross is kind of expensive for what you get out of it, but yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun trying to tame a drift car, I guess, you know.
Sure.
Because that wasn't the goal. It wasn't to drift. It was to go as fast as I could, you know.
Right.
So it was just like a lot of clutch slipping and half throttle. But it was a lot of fun for me. I really liked it.
You also weren't setting any national records, but I digress.
Definitely. Well, no, I was like, every one of my drift cars was like X class because of all the stuff it had, so it wasn't even fair at that point.
Well, no, not even close. You should have been running like 315 slicks.
Yeah, if I could fit them.
Yeah, exactly. All right, what do you got for Dalton over there?
What's the best and the worst part about drifters?
I mean, the best part, I'll start with the best. The best part is the community. Like everybody, I mean, for example, the last big event we had, Summer Jam. At the end of the day, there was about, 6 or 7 of us, my family and 3 or 4 of the workers. It took us maybe 30 minutes to clean up all of the garbage bags and throw them in the dumpster. And there was no trash left anywhere. I mean, like we walked around the night before and handed out a big trash bag to everybody and told everyone, we will pick up your trash as long as it's in a bag. In years past, people have done generally really well, but then they'll kind of throw all their garbage on top of the bag. And it's like, all right, you kind of halfway did it. But I mean, this last event, it was very noticeable how well everyone appreciated us after the event. And I mean, the cleanup was, I mean, we were gone before it was dark. I don't think we've ever left our facility before it was dark after most of our events. That's
awesome.
There are, I mean, like any place, I can go on and on about moto guys that we have to deal with and karters. There's always the bad people in each world. There's kids that aren't regulars that just roll in here and just kind of act like they're king, or just kind of are messy, don't really care about the fact that we just invest a lot in asphalt, and like we've moved kids pit spots because they just open up their diff on the asphalt with nothing underneath. And it was like, dude, are you kidding me? Like,
yeah,
it's all you gotta do is kind of think about little stuff like that. Like, we understand you gotta work on your car, but dude, if you can go find a grass area, like, and you're gonna spill some oil and you don't really have anything to catch it, just go off the asphalt. That's like all we ask. And 99% of the people have always followed and, completely agree and have actually helped kind of self-police it for us.
Mm-hmm,
why do people think that being a douche is some kind of a personality trait? They think it's going to get them somewhere in life. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
bro?
right. And I think a lot of people underestimate how willing, like, just you guys at PARC and everyone just there is willing to help. I mean, I almost guarantee you, if anyone would have came and asked you or one of the workers, like, hey, I have to pull my diff apart, like, I don't want to just dump it here, you guys would probably give them a pan to dump it in, or someone there might have something, someone's got to have something there at the track,
If a guy just came up and said, I'm going to crack something open, I don't have any towels, like, if I just had a handful of towels, I think I'd be good. Like, I'd go in and grab him a giant stack of towels, Like I don't really know if we have any pans. I know it was on our list to get a bunch of PARC Drift oil pans made, and like we were just gonna not really charge anyone for it. We were just maybe charge like how much it costs us to make them. But we are going to require drip pans if you're pitting on the asphalt, and that's purely we want to save the asphalt.
Yeah, definitely.
It's already starting to peel up in a lot of places. And I mean, before we kind of get into that, we understand 99% of the people who come to our events are awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And, our complaints about, what we need to change doesn't apply to the majority of the people who come out here. If you can look yourself in the mirror and know that you have never caused a problem or always there to help us or give us input, we're not mad at you at all. We're just trying to kind of make sure it doesn't get taken over or that like a bad image is placed on the community.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember, and we're throwing it way back. As a matter of fact, I think this is back before drifting even really hit the United States, but I remember the videos of drifters in Japan. They would like wreck their car, right? They would jump out of the car, help get the thing on the tow truck, and then be out there with a broom, like sweeping up and like bow to the audience and like tell the track officials, I'm so sorry, you know, if there's broken glass and stuff.
I remember that. I don't know if Dalton does, but I do.
Well, yeah, that might have been before your time. I'm sorry, my friend. But there used to be a huge etiquette. It was this weird juxtaposition of they're out doing bad things that are very frowned upon, especially in that particular socioeconomic
I feel like that's
situation.
Just drifters, though, you know, and I feel like it's just always been that way, because even if you look at, like, I've been to enough autocrosses where it's like, I don't know, I don't want to go work a corner at an autocross, and it seems like at autocrosses you always have that trouble of getting people to work corners, and it's always seemed like it was a struggle, you know, but like at a drift event, that's not really a problem. Like if there's some cone down or something, it's someone's going to run out there and pick it up. Like there's a car broke down, there'll be 20 people over there pushing it, you know, like it's just never a problem.
That's that 90% or 95% you're talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah. We love the media guys who come out, because they're usually the first guys to the cars to help get them back going. And so, yeah. And you know, there are new rules coming just because, like I said, the asphalt, that Summer Jam was an awesome event. Like that was really big for us to keep our employees working at our track. You know, we haven't had to lay anybody off or fire anybody or anything like that. We've been able to keep people working. Our rental business has been slowly trickling back in, and we've been getting a lot of kart practice guys. But yeah, when we did that big drift event, you know, that was huge. That would kind of made it to where, you know, one, that the paving of the driveway, you know, that was huge for that. And we definitely did that to kind of thank you guys, because we know it's a huge complaint to have to drive in on that gravel road every time.
Yeah.
And it was just a dust problem too. It made the whole facility dirty and dusty, especially in the summer. We bought a water truck to try and cure it, but it didn't really do much besides look cool. But yeah, you know, that event was awesome, but when you have, I'm trying to think of the number. I think over the 3 days, it was over 400 drivers, you know, and that could be, if you drove all 3 days, you were counted 3 times. But when you have that many cars on the track, you know, there's going to be a little bit of damage, you know, it's going to be wear and tear, like regular. So yeah, leading up after that, we just are trying to make sure that we can keep the track in good condition as long as possible. We're still going to be doing some type of runoff brick, like on the insides of the curbs, that will just, you know, there'll still be barriers on the inside of the curb so that you don't hook your wheels on it. But if you do, you're not going to just bring mud onto the track. Stuff to kind of keep the dirt off the track, where, you know, if you dip a tire, you'll feel it, and we'll just, you know, tell you, hey man, keep it on the track, but it's not going to break your wheel.
Yeah. So how is the track surface holding up then? Because I mean, how many events on the new track surface? Is it 4 or 3?
It was done in September. So we did like October, November, December, January, February, March, April. I mean, yeah, 6 or 7 events on it. What's happening is the oil spills. It is starting to peel up, like in the middle of turns. So after Summer Jam, there was, I think, 3 or 4 turns that we had to go patch up. This liquid tar, basically, that we just push, you know, spread over it, and it hardens up and everything. The only thing that sucks about using that is for the go-karters, it's a completely different grip level. So when we have to patch the track for that, and it usually happens right in the go-karting line, you go from a really grippy asphalt new surface that we have to, you know, your kart starts to slide when you get on that patch, and then you gain grip again. So, I mean, it's the changes we're going to be making are, you know, when oil spills, well, actually, let me back up a little bit. We had the guy that owns the asphalt company that paved our track. He came out to the track that Wednesday after the event. And we just walked him around, just kind of asked him, you know, what can we do to prevent this? You know, what's your advice? You know, we hate seeing it be torn up like this, but what do we need to do? He actually suggested if there's any oil spillage, stop doing anything for 2 hours. And that wouldn't work. You know, that's too long.
Yeah.
it's just when you think about it, there's 6 or 7 hours in, I think we go to 11 to 6 now. So you got 7 hours. One dude drops oil, 2 hours is,
yeah, that's kind of a lot of time. That's a lot of wasted time.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we're going to do is it's going to be probably 45 minutes to an hour wait. But it's also going to be a lot of trial and error. We're going to be trying new things. Some things might be a little too strict, and then after we do an event with it and we kind of get feedback and we understand, hey, this doesn't work, then we'll change. We definitely feed off of your guys' feedback. But one thing to keep in mind is, the only reason why we're doing this is purely to save the asphalt so that we can make our investment last as long as possible.
Oh yeah.
It was not a cheap expense. So, there's other things that we're looking into. Like, I know we're going to stop using kitty litter. They make a powder that is specifically for cleaning up oil on asphalt. Basically what was happening is there was quite a few people who spilled oil over the weekend. We would stop just to clean up the oil, pick it up, blow it off. And the guy who paved the track just said, what's happening is you're not picking up all the oil inside all of the, the cracks and the pores, and it's softening it up. And then you got spinning tires going across it, and it's actually peeling the rocks up. So it's, not trying to scare you guys. It's not like it's like it's digging craters in our track. We're just starting to see it start to peel up in 3 or 4 turns, and it's like, okay, we need to get on top of this. So, if we get something that can clean up the oil really well, then we might not have to wait as long. If we wait an hour and we know that we never have any issues, then we could think about, all right, we might, do a 30-minute wait just to let it, harden up. There's going to be a little bit of trial and error to this as we try and figure this out too.
Yeah, I think that's something everyone's got to keep in mind, is that PARC has always been that way from, beginning to end. It's always a trial and error thing, and the community has always been at least somewhat involved, and you guys listen to what the drifters say and whatnot to make the experience as good as possible for everyone. Now, granted, you can't make everybody happy, but we can try, right?
Yeah, it's not possible, but it doesn't mean you don't try to please everybody.
Exactly.
And it's the other thing that we've always, keeping guys off the edges of the track and dipping tires has been a challenge. It's anywhere you drift, that's one of the obstacles that a track or promoter faces. A lot of it, we've been trying to use stacks of tires. Most guys don't care, if their front end gets ripped off because they got a giant bar. Other guys, it works because they've got a really nice car and they don't want to mess it up. There's 3 areas on the track that top surface is actually chipped off a little bit, like on the edge, because it's that transition from short track to long track. Yeah. The edge is actually we found chunks in the grass after Summer Jam. So what we're going to try this next event is we found they're big tractor tires. They're pretty heavy. They're ones that are you work out and can lift up, but not ones I don't think you want to slam the back of your car into. So we're going to try and place those. They're not going to be like on the asphalt because we understand that there's distance between your rear wheels and the tail end of your car. You can hang it out there, but we're going to try and find that happy zone of, before you dig a trench on the edge of our track, you might want to let off and not hit this big tire, Wow. And again, that would be another thing of trial and error. We've tried probably 15 different obstacles to put on the edges of the track in the last 2 years. Some of them work pretty well. Some of them don't. It's.
Well, does it seem to you, Dalton, like having a clipping zone or something there for people to aim at kind of helps reduce that as well? That seems like just giving someone a target to aim at.
But the problem is where do you put that target? Because what do you have as a target out there in the middle of nowhere that if someone doesn't go past that, it's now smashed or it's now blown out and someone has to set it up every time? You could do something like that, but it is kind of hard without doing like a solid like K barrier or something, mm-hmm. maybe there between like those 2 sections of track, because that's where it transfers from short to long. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like yeah, well, where do you put it? You know what I mean? Yeah, you can give someone something to look at, but with the way that PARC runs, it's hard to just have like a cone there or something, because cars are constantly going.
And did I notice that someone had actually gotten up onto a plastic barrier during Summer Jam?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's happened a couple times. That's another thing that we kind of internally debate with the barriers is there's good and bad of those. It sucks when guys hit them because it costs $88 to replace them, and that is actually what it cost us. Those barriers are made by my dad. He started designing those barriers, and we sell them to kart tracks. And so that is how much it costs us to make them and have them at our track. And so the downside is, when we put them on the edge of the track, more people are going to hit them. It's supposed to serve as like a, hey man, if you break one of these, you got to pay for it. But the downside is we've lost so many barriers, and it's like we're short barriers, and I'm stealing some from other sections of the track, and it's a little bit of a struggle. But the other thing that I have gotten feedback on is some guys like them when they're on the outside of the track, because it kind of gives them that depth perception. I've heard that argument just a couple of times, and I at least as a kart driver, it kind of helps us when I see those. But I'm trying to steer away from using barriers if we have to, just because I'm tired of losing barriers. But
and maybe if like those tractor tires work pretty good because they're probably pretty heavy, maybe it's more about like clever placement, because I feel like if you cleverly placed one or two of those kind of almost at the apex of where the corner is, or like the very wide point, you're going to have to take that corner a little different and shallow up, or you're going to hit that every time. You know what I mean? So it's going to naturally push everyone a little bit further inside, because now they don't want to hit that right there, And I'm sure people will still push it and whatever, but it's exactly what you said. You can't stop that 5% or whatever it is. There's always going to be those people that push it and don't care, and it's unfortunate, but those are the guys that get in trouble all the time, right? And those are the ones that get yelled at and this and that. But
I'm real curious to see what those big tractor tires with their chevron treads do to like a back bumper when you wall tap them.
I know, right?
It ain't gonna be like the plastic,
No, I'm sure it'll even bend some tubes and stuff.
Oh yeah.
It might, if you hit it pretty fast, it could spin you around. It might loop you. I mean, we have tried. I mean, we have tried to for so long not to put something harsh out there. One thing that could be like the end all, like, all right, we'll never have an issue, is putting like cement walls everywhere. And it's like that, I mean, I don't know. I don't like that. I feel like we lose a lot more people just by placing those out there. And, I've also heard some people say that it would be cool to put some concrete walls in some areas just so that you have a wall, that you can try and wall tap or something. And just in some areas, I feel like that would be really awesome to have and be really cool. And it would also serve a purpose of keeping people off the edge of the track. But, it's all depending on placement. Same thing with the tires. That's going to be something that this next event in July, we will try. I'm going to try and keep them off the edge of the track to where you might have that little bit of space of error. But if you're going to drop a wheel like a foot off the edge of the track, like, you're probably going to hit a tire. But if you're going to just barely dip it, it's something that we're going to play with, and we're going to listen to the guys, to the drivers, because again, we're not trying to piss everybody off and have them leave, but we are also trying to make the surface last as long as possible. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I think that too, I think it'll start changing a little bit too, especially once you get those tires there. Cause I still feel like some people probably still drive the track like the old surface. And I'll be real honest, like if you weren't almost dropping a tire right there where you're talking about, Dalton, or if you weren't fairly close to dropping a tire, like it was kind of hard to link. And it is kind of hard to link that back section. And so like some people, I think they're maybe still driving like the old surface, and they're not utilizing like corner 2 being so wide like it is, that you can really like kind of hang it wide and really catch some speed getting out of there into the back section. I don't think you have to run it quite as wide as maybe you used to.
And that's the thing. I mean, I don't really have a whole lot of drifting experience, but just from watching, you know, I probably watched hundreds of thousands of laps being driven at that track, and by a lot of professionals too. You know, the guys on the new surface that are going super deep into turn 2 and are making their shot from turn 2 into long track pretty straight to catch the speed. They typically don't have an issue with going off the edge of the track. When guys come in kind of late apex turn 2 and are up on the curb, they are the ones that, to me at least, it seems like they have to throw their car to make it around that back section, and that's where there's really not a whole lot of space for that without making an error.
Yeah, you have to make up for being shallow, and you have to stretch that out, or you're not going to make it. There's no other way to avoid that if you're that shallow. And see, before you didn't have a choice.
Before it was with the old surface, you know, we were constantly struggling with, we want to keep people off the edges of the track, but I mean, shoot, none of us could go out there and really keep it on the track either. So
it was a struggle.
It was so narrow in so many areas. It was really hard to enforce, but now it's like, I mean, guys that go off in turn 1, it's, you know, we gave you, I think 16 or 18 extra feet of distance in turn 1, you know, like it's hard to justify just going off the edge of turn 1 and keeping the wheel pinned, you know. And once again, if you go off the track and you let off the gas instantly and roll through the grass, you're doing everything fine. You're doing everything perfect. You know, you're doing exactly what we're asking. It is just the ones who stay on the gas.
Now would actually be the perfect time for us to show some of those aerial photos. Unfortunately, OBS is still frozen. Are you froze up, Nick? Yeah, nice. So the video is still working. Everything looks great as far as you know, YouTube and Facebook, but unfortunately, we don't have any control. As a matter of fact, to end this show, we're probably going to have to hard restart the computer.
Like the good end to any show, right?
So I wish we could be showing people the new track layout, but let's talk about it a little bit while we have you here, Dalton. Half of our audience is audio only, so you know. You know,
Dalton, I don't know how you feel about it, and maybe it's like a question that we throw out to the community, but I was just sitting here thinking about it, like, do you think maybe it would help, like, as far as like corner 1 goes, if like maybe we painted like a line as far as like an initiation line? Like, if you're not initiating by here, you're going into the wall, you know what I mean? Like, unless you just have a stupid amount of angle and you're just on the brakes, you're going into the wall, you know what I mean? And maybe having like a visual something visual like that, maybe for like newer guys, or maybe even just a cone, I don't know, you know, that maybe that would help.
But actually, so when we first paved the track, the first thing we had was a big go-kart race. And so we wanted it, we painted the track, you know, painted the white stripes around the edge. And one thing we did is we didn't, everywhere where we extended the track, we didn't have the white line follow that extension. We actually tried to keep it the kart track width around. And I mean, I know Denofa or some of his school guys came out and just said, hey, or kind of or they requested that, or I'm trying to think of the word, but it was their idea, and they said, well, you should do that so that, you know, I can tell guys in my class, aim to put your back wheels on that white line, and if there's at least 4 or 5 feet in every every corner, you know, if you're on that white line, then you've got that extra distance for error, you know.
That makes sense. Yeah.
The issue with that is after one event, all the paint's gone because the tire rubber, you know, covers it. You know?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That first event was really good. Like, we thought, oh man, like nobody's going to go off because, I mean, it was our first event on the new surface, so everyone was still used to the very narrow track. And I know that line that kind of showed you the kart track width allowed you to aim for it and know that you still had, you know, in some corners 10 or 12 extra feet, you know, in case you came in a little hot.
Oh yeah, I know that first event, because I was at that first event and I was shooting everything so shallow, it was crazy. I remember like the first time I went through corner 1, I just, you know, just like I normally would, just kind of normal motions, and I throw it in and I'm like, wow, there's like 6 feet behind me. Like, look at all that room back there.
Yeah. Especially for the guys that have literally learned how to drift on the old surface.
Yeah.
You know, I think those guys have a pretty big advantage because, you know, you learned how to drift on a pretty technical track that forced you to learn how to be precise.
Yeah. You know, or maybe it comes down to, I know that everyone is probably would hate it, but, you know, maybe you have to run two different run groups, you know, because there is so many people now and there's so many cars. Maybe you just have to run group A for 30 minutes and then run group B for 30 minutes. You come on and off track as you want, like with that run group or something, you know, that way maybe you just take the back section away from one of the groups, because, like, let's be real. I haven't necessarily like blasted into the bushes and everything, but I've definitely had my car get away from me in the back section and been like, okay, we're going off track, and dumped some wheels and done everything I could to not hit the wall, you know, because
was it Matt that went over the berm?
Yes, it was. It was, yeah, same car, but it was Matt. But, you know, it's like, especially when you're trying to make that corner, and if you start throwing it wide and then you drop a tire and you're already gaining all that speed, you know, it can change real quick.
Yeah, you know, we've definitely looked at doing groups. When we play with that idea, the feedback is always like 50-50.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always like, some people are like, oh man, that'd be awesome, and other people are like, oh, that would suck. And it's like, all right, you know, it's kind of hard, because usually when we get feedback, it's like, you know, only a handful of guys oppose, but the majority like this idea, so we roll with it, you know. I do know what we're doing from now on, especially after Summer Jam. Every event will be capped at 175, 160. We know that, I mean, I think we had 208 drivers on Saturday. And
that's crazy.
I mean, we cut it off. I mean, I remember when we cut it off, I was parking guys that were coming in, and I had 4 or 5 just single day drivers that just needed their little 10x10 easy up, and I couldn't find anywhere for them to park. And so I literally called up at the gate and I just said, we're capping it. We have no more space. So
yeah,
that number
crazy.
was right at 208. And there were still probably 10 or 12, maybe 15 drivers that were getting ready, wanted to register. And we gave them first dibs for tomorrow or the next day, but we just said we can't, unfortunately, like, we've got 208 drivers. And, you know, we didn't realize we had that many until we ran out of space.
I gotta be honest, man. I didn't even know. I mean, capping it at 175, that sounds like
insane.
Yeah, I was thinking you'd cap it at like 100.
Yeah, but that's been like a consistent number, I feel like, for a long time, 100 drivers at an event.
So, like, Tanashima has always done theirs at 125. And that has kind of been, and, you know, I think we've always let, like, you know, halfway through the day, 2 or 3 guys be like, hey, like, can I drive a couple laps? And we're like, I go for it, you know, if there's not a whole lot of people on track. So that 125 to 130 range is kind of that magic number of almost everybody will still get a ton of laps, and there will still be a couple moments in the day where there's a little bit of downtime or where there's only a handful of cars on track. You know, if we cap it too short, then, I mean, there's going to be a lot of days that we get 60 or 70 drivers, you know, and that it's still good, but if we can get it 100, 110, you know, that's better. But we know that 175, we can at least get an average of, I think it was like 25 laps per driver. The other thing we were playing a lot with at Summer Jam was we were actually timing how many people how many laps people are getting and how many guys are getting launched per minute. And then like per 30 minutes, like, when it got really bad on Saturday, it was like, all right, with this amount of people that we're launching, everyone's going to be getting like 16, maybe 20 laps, you know, but with 125 people, it was about a 45 lap average for the day.
Which is, wow. That's good. Yeah. That's
good value.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we try and, you know, my dad's the one who is he's a numbers guy. He'll sit there, and we sat in the hut I sat in there for an hour and just had a timer, and I would just sit there and note, you know, 3 cars went this time. You know, one thing that can kind of skew that number is tandem lines, because I was counting the number of cars that were going. So sometimes you get a 7-car train that takes off, you know, or then the next couple of tandem runs, you get just 2 guys. And so, but but we would average it out, and it was, with about 125 guys, 45 laps for a day on average to us seems pretty good, because that's gonna fluctuate. There's gonna be a lot of guys who break their cars, don't get as many laps, and that just gives you more opportunity to get more laps.
Yep. Listen, if you want more laps than that, you need to be renting a track somewhere, because I don't know how you're going to get more than that just about anywhere.
That like 45 to 60, like anywhere in that, like I feel like 45 to 60 laps, that's a busy day. I know I've probably done that many or more, and it's rough. The last time I was there, I think I did 30 laps, and that was a lot. My car was overheating. We had our different problems, but I don't even know with my JZ if I would even get 45 laps in one day, even if it was like that, just because of heat problems, especially during the summer. I'm like 2 laps and I got to park for what I could have probably ran a lap or two,
Well, and it all just depends on your car. Some guys that aren't going through tires, or they can go 20 laps or 15 laps on a set of tires and they don't overheat, they're going to be able to get more laps.
Yep.
And guys who can go 3 or 4 laps on a set and then got to go mount a new set and also have to let their engine cool off, all that stuff. It's if you've got a big car that it takes a lot of that destroys your tires pretty quickly, you're just going to kind of accept the fact that you may not get as many laps in the day. But that's why we look at that average number. As long as we can, sit there for an hour at each event and kind of average out, okay, seems like everyone's going to get at least 30 laps, by this, then we look at that like that's pretty good. If it starts to drop below 30, that's when we start to kind of think of other ideas. The other thing we did is we just started sending people more frequent at Summer Jam. We used to wait till we knew guys would clear turn 2. That was kind of our tell. If there were drivers that we know never spin, as soon as we see them entering turn 1, we'd send the next guy, because we know that guy's not going to spin out and ruin the second guy's lap. That's the other challenge when you got so many drivers, is it's hard to remember and profile guys when there's 200 plus drivers. You'll remember that there's 30 or 40 of them aren't going to spin, but we also take note of the guys that struggle to go 2 laps without spinning 3 times, and it's, we welcome those guys. That's kind of why we're here. We promote ourselves as a grassroots program. We want guys to learn to drift out here, but it is a really hard place to learn to drift.
Oh, it is.
Right.
Definitely. But it's just, that's exactly what you were just saying, though. It's all in that give and take. There's plenty of guys out there like me that, like, I don't say I welcome the spins, but when people spin out, it gives my car longer to cool down in line, and usually I get more laps before I have to pull off track. Like, sometimes, depending on what happens, I'll get an extra lap before I even have to, like, fully pull off track and sit, So I think it's just all about that give or take, and like you said, we definitely invite those people out, but it is not the easiest place to learn, that's for sure.
Well, I'm looking forward to having a
skid pad?
real struggle.
I'm going to say that every episode until someone makes a dang skid pad.
Dalton, we've got about 5 minutes left on this episode. Is there anything else you'd like to cover before we go?
Actually, yeah. I will go over. We are going to be doing a little bit of a press release on. It'll be something that we are going to ask you guys to kind of read through. It's just going to explain you guys some of the new rules, the new procedures. We're going to explain why we are going to start with an hour wait when there's oil spilled on the track. And again, this is for us to kind of figure out what works. We are our goal is to save the asphalt. So if we can do that and maybe reduce that time in the next couple events, then we'll look at doing that. But whatever it takes to keep the asphalt from peeling, we're gonna make sure we can do that. The other thing that we are changing to is new opening times for our events. We used to open gate at 9, and then driver's meeting was at 10:30. What we're doing now is gates will open for drivers and their crew at 8 a.m. And from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., it is drivers and their crew are the only ones that are going to be allowed past that front gate building. Now, if you want to go in there with the driver, you actually do have to register with your driver to let you back in there. The reason why we're doing this is we want the drivers to get enough time to get set up, get in there, and we are also making drivers' meetings completely mandatory. So they've always been mandatory, but we just kind of sit there with a mic until everyone driver's meeting. And I know of a lot of guys that skip them, and then they'll drift the last turn and they'll say, oh, I didn't know. And I'm like, well, it's because you skipped the driver's meeting. And so we are going to make those mandatory. We will be actually taking attendance, like rough attendance. We have the names of everyone who registers. So at the start of the meeting, I'll call off 15 or 20 names, and just, if you aren't there, what we're doing is there's going to be 2 drivers meetings. There's going to be one at 10:30 and one at noon. You basically have to attend a driver's meeting before you can go on track. Mm-hmm. So if you show up after noon, you can still get on track. What we're going to do is we're just going to tell you, go talk to Chris, and Chris is just going to give you like a one-on-one driver's meeting. And then he'll give you the correct wristband and you're clear. We have had a lot of guys, we've never regulated people who show up at 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Most of them just don't even go through tech because our tech guy is on the track pulling cars off the track. Mm-hmm. And so we just want to make sure that we can get everyone who enters our track to know the rules, be aware of them, because if there's something we can do to prevent them from making a mistake that they maybe didn't know, then we're going to try and do that. But drivers meetings will be mandatory. 1 hour spill. We're going to be a little bit more strict on tech. Like, we are going to do drip tests. When you do tech, there'll be more on that. This is kind of rough. Before we make any decisions on that, I actually have a couple meetings with drifters, just so that we can, I can ask them what you guys think would help solve this problem. But if there are cars that, we put a piece of paper, cardboard underneath while it's running in 2 minutes, and we pull it out and there's, a big puddle of oil, that car will not be allowed to go on track. You've
Sure.
got to make sure you're not just spitting oil.
So basically, you're making your events just like any other motorsport event.
Pretty much.
Because, listen, none of this is unreal to someone like me who's done a lot of track racing, drag racing. This is nothing new. Like, you guys, in my opinion, have been very lax with most of this stuff. So anybody that hears this and gets upset about it, just understand that, like, you've been getting off very easy this entire time.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
If we began to even apply, like, how strict karting is on the drifters, we would, PARC drift would be gone pretty soon. Karting is extremely strict. Everything you get penalties for not filling out your pre-tech form correctly. You get penalties for, if you pre-tech your car in karting, and if you lie about the Snell rating on your helmet and they check it after and they say, oh, you lied, they DQ you, you're done. And so we have tried very hard not to bring that into drifting, because it's a very different world. The thing that's cool about drifting is there's not very many rules, and it's all about style. It's all about hanging out. It's about making friends and just creating memories and cool content and videos and all that stuff. And whereas, karting is very serious now, but
like, come on, let's not puke the guts of our cars all over a freshly paved track. Like, there is a happy medium there. No, you're not going to DQ someone for lying about their helmet, but also you're not going to let somebody just jump on track and spill the guts of their transmission on your track.
Well, yeah, and I feel like it's one thing. Let's be real. Everyone at PARC is understanding, and they're real people. They know, and we all know, like, things happen. Me at the first event, my diff started leaking. Why? Because I didn't realize there was a bleeder in the top of my new diff cover, so I had to put a hose on it. It happens. You clean it up, you move on, and you figure it out. And just try not to what you said, spill all the guts out all over the track. It's.
And anybody that thinks that this is too strict needs to go and run Wednesday night drags at PIR. Like,
yeah, no kidding.
This is basic stuff, people.
Yep.
No, it was funny when we were sitting down and having the meetings a couple of days ago and just kind of going through the bullet points of what we're applying. We all were like, isn't this like every other motorsport? Like, drivers meetings mandatory. There's a punishment if you drop your oil on the track, and it's going to be a case by case thing. If you throw your rod through your engine and you dump all the oil, dude, that's not in your control. Like, the point, at some point you could say you were negligent, but dude, the whole point of drifting is to build power and, guys, that's kind of the thing to do, is just put a ton of power through in your engine and boost them. That's going to happen. The penalty for that is, you're done for the day, which, if you threw a rod through your engine, you're already done, So, I mean, that kind of just self regulates itself, But if we realize that, at the end of this year,